You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Alex. Alex, how are we doing tonight?
All right. Well, welcome back to the pod. I've been on dad duty for a little bit, so you'll notice that I'm kind of speaking in my NPR voice. That's because there's a sleeping baby not too far from me, so I'm gonna try to keep it down a little bit. But that doesn't mean I'm any less excited to be here. It's talking shop with you, Derek. After a pretty exciting national championship game last night. I didn't catch the first half, but thank God I didn't, because it was pretty boring from what I gathered. But that second half was pretty entertaining and ended up being a really good football game. And congratulations to the Indiana Hoosiers on winning the national title. Is that why Kevin couldn't make it tonight? Because he's a Purdue boy, so I know that that's probably tough for him to see Indiana winning.
Nah, he got some JOB stuff tonight, but
Convenient.
yeah, no, it was good for Kurtz and Yeti in Indiana, and good for them on getting getting that job done. And it'll be interesting to see how things kind of turn around there and continue. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what that looks like. But it was a deal where it looked like Miami was going to really kind of pull away, and then Indiana really was going to pull away, and then Miami kind of clawed their way back into it. And, special teams play kind of broke it back loose again a little bit, but no, overall it was a pretty good game and pretty exciting all the way through.
Yeah, good way to cap the college football season, and looking forward to next year. Take a break for a little bit. College football season drags on, man.
Not anymore. It's it is months and months long. So
yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see too how the transfer portal and everything else finishes shaking out here on that one as well. And we'll see what team wants to be the big spenders this year when it's all said and done. So
yeah.
So you want to start seeing where the teams that are going to be in the playoff next season follow the NIL money. That seems to be the secret anymore.
I had to well, maybe Indiana didn't really have a ton of it, but I had to laugh. There was a way too early top 25 for next year that's already come out, and somehow, some way, the University of Texas has lurched to the top of that list, and people just never learn.
Right. I think I saw the one that you're looking at, and Ohio State was, I think, number 2 or number 3, and we'll see something similar here this next year for sure, where one of those teams will win, the other one will lose, and then we'll most likely have a incumbent there for quite a while.
Yeah. It'll be. I mean, it's fun. Hopefully, they figure out this playoff situation and maybe expand it a little bit. That would be what I'm in favor of, is expansion. But we'll see. The format now, while imperfect, is better than what it was. So we're working our way towards a better format, I think.
Right. Just. There's something to be said, though. Some of these automatic qualifiers is what they need to tweak on, right? Like,
yeah.
I get that the whole thing was set to the point where there were 5 power conferences back in the day, and quite frankly, the likelihood that you would have, 4 of those conferences not be in there, and then you open the possibility for a non-group of 5 to make it there. With the mergers and all of that, right? That's how you get a couple of teams that are kind of just barely cracking the top 25 somehow get in there. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and good on Miami making the selection committee look good, making it all the way to the national championship game as literally the last team in.
Right. Now, there is something to that, though, that how much of that was just fuel that they used to get there, right? Like,
I would agree with that, and I would also say this. I think there's an argument to be made that getting a top 4 seed isn't beneficial.
No.
That is a lot of time off. That's a lot of time off.
Not only that, more often than not, the teams that get the home game in the first round right? They essentially get almost a little bit of a tune-up game, so to speak, and then go in there more battle tested into the next round and kind of rock and roll from there. But
ball, yeah, in over a month.
Right.
But like championship weekend is usually that first weekend in December, and if you get a bye, you're not playing again until the first of the year. Right? There's 3 weeks off when you've played, and the longest break you're gonna have throughout the course of a season is a week. Like that's a long time.
Right. So, but again, congrats to Indiana and pulling off an undefeated season, which is very difficult to do. So congratulations to them, and we'll kind of move on there. We did have some NFL take place this last week. Thoughts on the divisional round?
I mean, the Broncos game was closer than it should have been, given the fact that Denver's defense forced that many turnovers. But everything else kind of went the way I thought it would. I knew that Rams-Bears game was going to be a good one. Because, that Bears team is persistent, I guess is probably the best way. Like, they just don't go away, right? And the Rams, I think the better team won in that game. Keep in mind, like that game doesn't go to overtime unless it's a miracle heave right there right at the end of the fourth quarter. So I think the Rams won. Seattle looks really good. Man, do they look really good right now. And I thought New England would take care of business at home against Houston. So it kind of went the way I thought it would.
Very different narratives, though, when you look at Josh Allen's 4 turnovers and CJ Stroud's 4 turnovers and the kind of the very different narratives that were spun on fans and commentators and all of that throughout the kind of this last few days here. But it was very interesting to see the difference between the two there, right? Turned over 4 times, but that's because he's trying to play Superman and put the entire team on his back versus it just hadn't progressed. Can't seem to figure it out and can't seem to put it together.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about experience, right? Josh Allen's been in the league a lot longer and has played more meaningful games,
right?
Than CJ Stroud has. I don't think the moment was too big for CJ Stroud, and I'll be honest with you, I was busy when that game was being played, so I didn't get to watch. I didn't get to watch any of it really. I just caught up on it afterwards. But again, I think Josh Allen has built some equity, right, wrong, or indifferent. He's built some equity, and Stroud doesn't have that yet. But I will say that either way, if you turn the ball over as many times as those teams did, you don't deserve to have a chance to win. It was a miracle that Buffalo was even in that game with Denver. It doesn't give you warm and fuzzies if you're a Denver fan. And quite honestly, you shouldn't have had warm and fuzzies anyways. And then the Bo Nix injury news comes out immediately after the game. And I mean, I was already not feeling great about playing New England, who just seems like they're just firing on all cylinders right now. The one thing that we kind of had was the will of Bo Nix to kind of get us to where we needed to go. Well, this is almost, Tim Tebow in 2009 or whatever it was.
No, please don't go there.
Well, but that's kind of how it felt. Like you always feel like you're in the game with him, right? And even when he's trying to give the game away, you always feel like you're in that game. So like that was kind of the shining, the pretty thing to look at. And then, I mean, nothing against Jarrett Stidham. He's a capable quarterback, but there's a reason why he's second on the depth chart for a reason. Like, but if he was good enough to be the starter, he'd be the starter, right?
Right. Well, Jarrett Stidham is probably the 34th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in that range quarterback in the league. Top tier backup, but not good enough to get the but not there to be one of the top 32 guys to have the job.
Right offhand, I'm not sure that I know every quarterback on every team. That knowledge has left. Every backup quarterback on every team, I should say. I mean, sure, yeah. But again, like if he was good enough to be the starter, he'd be the starter.
Right. So, but yeah, we'll see how this thing comes to play and how that comes to pass. And yeah, it'll be interesting, right? It'll be interesting to see how they kind of cook up the plays and strategize and try and
Do you want
see
my
how
predictions?
Sure.
I think Seattle rolls again. By the way, I saw a weird stat, and I don't know if it's true, but the last two times in the football season where a new pope has been selected, the Seahawks have made the Super Bowl. So
Interesting.
I don't know if it's true, but that's what I saw. And I didn't bother to look it up because I liked it too much that I didn't want it to not be true. But the last two times, so the last two times there was a new pope elected, the Seahawks made the subsequent Super Bowl. So I think Seattle rolls in that game in the NFC Championship, and then I think New England takes care of business and wins in Denver, which is something they haven't done in an AFC Championship game, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you are correct on that one. So
are you looking up this Pope stat?
Kind of. Yeah, I was trying to figure that one out.
It
doesn't make it. The part that falls apart on that is the right. Didn't they make it in back-to-back in 2013 and 2014?
Yes, but
okay.
They also made it the year that Pope Francis was elected in 2013.
Right, but then there wasn't another one in 2014 when they made it again.
Yes, so the correlation is when there's a new pope elected, the Seahawks make the Super Bowl. It's not if there's a new pope elected, the Seahawks will make the Super Bowl. It's just when there's a new pope elected.
That's some bad data and poor cherry picking of stats is what I'm going to say to that.
Okay, but I'm saying the last two times that it's happened, they've been to the Super Bowl, and it just happened again this year, and they're playing lights out football.
Let's see. So
3 is the trend, Derek.
But you don't have a trend yet.
So in 2005, Pope Benedict was elected. The Seahawks were the number 1 seed. They reached the Super Bowl. In 2013, they lost that Super Bowl. In 2013, Pope Francis is elected. The Seahawks finish the NFC as a number 1 seed, and they win the Super Bowl. 2025, Pope Leo is elected. Seahawks get the number 1 seed, and story yet to be written.
All right. Well, we'll see how that comes to pass there. But
all I'm saying is, next time that there's a Pope elected, go to the book and grab you a futures bet on Seattle.
There you go. That's some. Anyway,
don't take my gambling advice. I'm horrible.
Before kind of looking ahead there, although it would be interesting, right? Because most of the matchups that we can get for February 8th will be rematches of very recent Super Bowls, with the exception of LA and Denver. Right? Like that's kind of the only wild card that we can get something unique there. And so I'm honestly kind of rooting for uniqueness. So hoping that we can see it that way.
I look, the storylines are great either way, right? And that's what the NFL wants. The NFL wants great storylines. Drake May is a great storyline. LA is a great storyline just because it's LA, right? It's Matt Stafford. This might be his last hurrah, you know? By the way, you think if Matt Stafford wins the Super Bowl, he retires?
I don't know. I think
he calls it.
I don't know. I think it's more one of those how he feels in the offseason.
That's fair.
Right? Like one of those that you're sitting around and you're like, do I really feel like getting up for another training camp and going through the grind of a season again?
Yeah.
I think that's one of those that decision gets made, May, June type of scenario.
Yeah. Seattle's a great story because Sam Darnold is on this Renaissance tour again, right? And then Denver will have the great story too if it's the backup quarterback that takes them there, right? And that defense. So I think there's a lot of good storylines, which is what the NFL wants.
Right.
They want the good story because that's easy to sell for 2 weeks between conference championship weekend and Super Bowl weekend.
Right. Well, and there's the the storyline too as well that I don't know if you saw this, but you have Mike and Sean versus Mike and Sean in the conference for head coaches, right?
Yeah, I hadn't considered that. That's good.
The four square that you can play there as far as, do you get Mike versus Mike? Do you get Sean versus Sean? Do you get a Mike versus Sean? So it's interesting. And actually, is there any thoughts on that one? Or if not, I'm going to go to Mario's comment. He just commented because that's where I was going to take us anyway.
No.
Okay. So Mario chiming in saying, "Greeting, fellas. Were the Bills game ball fumbles real or just evidence that games are rigged?" So
look, okay. So I don't know if this is about the interception in overtime, but let's talk about the interception in overtime, because any way you slice it, that's an interception, right? Like if that ball hits the ground, that's an incomplete pass, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all agree on that. If that ball hits the ground, it's an incomplete pass. So why then, if the defender comes up with the football as the process of the catch is being made, if the defender comes up with the football, how is that not an interception? And yes, I get that. I'm looking at this through very orange and blue tinted glasses, but still, like if it's going to be, if it would be ruled an incompletion if he drops it, why then is possession by the defensive team through the act of the catch not an interception? Like, that's the question you have to ask yourself. And if you can find an answer to that, I'm all ears, but I haven't heard a great explanation.
So there's
as to how that gets defended.
Well, right, and I'm of the same opinion, right, that it's an interception. But there's three parts to the catch, right? In order for it to be a catch, there's three parts that have to be completed, regardless of the situation, right? So if the ball is thrown, right, the receiver has to have possession of it, has to have 2 feet in bounds or a knee, and then if going to the ground, and that's where the contact's made and they hit the ground, has to survive the ground on that one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if the first thing that happens is not the ground is what, defensive player and all that, they hit the ground right before the really where that comes to play is, right, if it's not the ground that's the first thing's made, then it has to have possession, or have 2 feet in bounds and make a football move before going to the ground to create possession, right? So when and this is one of the things that kind of drove me nuts when seeing this, people trying to use steel frames and everything else to try and prove a point through a lot of social media stuff with the Devontae Adams catch that was then ruled that he was down by contact. The football move in that scenario was him resisting the tackle because he got hit by 1, hit by 2. There's a count that takes place in there, and then he goes to the ground, right? At which point, 2 feet, ball in possession, makes a football move, goes to the ground, ball comes loose. But because he had hit the ground at that point, he was ruled down by contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Catch, not a fumble. In the Brandon Cook scenario, they were fighting. They both went to the ground same time. So Brandon Cooks had the ball, landed, had the body part in bounds to have that part, but then didn't survive the ground. Because he didn't survive the ground, and it ended up with McMillan. That's an interception. But to further look into this as well, right, and just kind of the premise of the games being rigged, things like that, I would look a few plays back before that interception, right? Josh Allen's in the end zone trying to make a play. Buffalo has a Denver defensive lineman around the neck, holding him like this, and you can see it clear as day. It's holding in the end zone. Josh Allen's in the end zone. If it was really rigged, they would have thrown the flag there, and it's a safety. Game over at that point.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking for more of it, is it really rigged type of thing? The pass attempt to forget if it was Knox or Kincaid, but the tight end going down the field right before the end of regulation, right before they made the kick to tie it up, right? That play preceding the kick to send it to overtime by Buffalo. Denver defender comes around, is coming back up around, and gets yanked back on that one. Josh Allen overthrows his receiver by 5 yards. If you're looking for that evidence of it to be rigged, they would have thrown a flag there for holding as well. And Buffalo would have been having to try and make a 60-yarder to tie the game up instead of the 50-yarder, right? Like, yeah, if we want to talk about the officiating, we want to talk about some of that kind of stuff. Like, there were several calls along the way that went in Buffalo's favors that were no calls along that. So, but anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, games aren't rigged. It's fun to talk about, but games aren't rigged.
Right? Like, if same thing with the script type of thing, right? Like, who signs off on the, like, oh, I'm going to break my ankle and have surgery and miss out on the conference championship and potentially the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who signs off on that one to be like, yep, we're gonna do that so that we can be part of this thing, right? Like,
yeah, it's fun to talk about, but
right?
If you believe that, then I have some great lakefront property or some oceanfront property in Arizona I'd like to talk to you about.
There you go. So, but it's a fun thing, right? And it's a lot of fun for people to chat about and talk about, and definitely show up all across the social medias for days on end. And the other thing too that kind of solidifies that is Joe Burrow coming out. I don't know if you saw his tweet that he came out and just
first
said
time in 2 years he's tweeted.
Right. Somebody made the joke that he felt so moved to say what he had to say. He found his password to be able to type in and do it. But
somebody, I think that the phrasing was that there was enough internet doofuses that Joe Burrow had to come out and tweet for the first time in 2 years.
But the simple fact that right, the majority of people that don't understand some of the nuances and the rules around that.
Look, and I think McDermott had a case that they didn't at least look at it more, right? Like, maybe just feign that you're, giving the appearance that you're going to look at it. So I get that. I think that you can be upset about that they didn't even bother to look at it again.
Well,
like, you would at least want that.
By rule, right? By rule, what's automatically
all turnovers? I know all turnovers, but like, at least
and
just
touchdowns, right?
Eyes.
Like, so that was one of those that not only did the officials on the field feel so comfortable about that call that they made it.
Again, but it's the optics. I think it's the optics.
It very well could be, right?
And I think if that went the other way, if this was the other way around, I'd like to consider us reasonable, right? We could see how they could call that, but you would still probably be a little miffed that they didn't at least take a second look at it, right? Really make sure, because my team's season is over now.
Well, but again, by rule, they had to look at it again, right?
Yes.
Like,
just the optics of it.
So the optics.
Give me the optics.
I guess if you're gonna make the play that it makes good television to have the added drama of a lengthened review on that thing.
Give me the optics.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying there. If we're going for the optics and trying to make good television type of thing, yes, it makes more sense to do a prolonged review and some guy staring at a monitor with a headset on going and making all sorts of right. But the replay booth was so confident in their decision that, yep, that's a turnover.
I agree.
So
I think they would have, but I think if the shoe was on the other foot, I would at least maybe want a little bit more.
right. No, and I get that. I get that too. Right. Um, the anyway, we'll move on because I can kick this horse all night. But so looking at there was lots of kind of interesting things, right? And it never fails that we get some call over the playoffs that lead to a very much a lot of discussion and a lot of people taking the comments and trying to showcase something one way or another, right? And that's it certainly gave people a lot of things to talk about this week and leading into championship week.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens this week here, and you may not be wrong with the what we've got set in store for the matchups and who we may be seeing here in a couple of weeks on February 8th. But
Yeah,
we shall see. Any thoughts on the coaching carousel?
Well, we're starting to see some more things. I think it was today the Giants officially introduced John Harbaugh as their head coach.
That was some very interesting contract negotiations where they announced that he's accepted, but the deal doesn't get finalized for several days later.
Yeah. Which I think look, he's earned that. And I think if you're the Giants and you want to be taken seriously, maybe do something different than what you had been doing, right? So I think that is the interesting one. Jim Harbaugh has a new OC coming to Los Angeles for the Chargers with Mike McDaniel, former Dolphins coach, taking the OC job there. Remember, he was a pretty good offensive mind there in San Francisco before he took the Miami job. So we'll see if he can get it working again with that that we were talking about it beforehand. I think it's an exciting core of young players that has potential. Derek, I think you're a little less excited about that possibility, and you think he probably should have gone to a different locale.
I would have been more excited with him in a different locale with some of the different player groupings that he could have and some of the different player personnel there. But yeah, I can certainly understand why the Chargers do that. My way too early prediction is we see Greg Roman now as the Giants offensive coordinator next year.
That's good. Hiring Robert Saleh as their head coach.
Right.
Saleh was the head coach at the Jets. Yeah, he got kind of a raw deal there in New York, which seems to be the theme, right?
Right. I saw Baker took to social to welcome Kevin Stefanski to the NFC East or the NFC South there.
I didn't see the tweet, but I did see that he tweeted. What did he say?
It was a little spicy on that one that somebody came to and basically said that Kevin Stefanski got a raw deal and Cleveland because the quarterbacks were trash or something like that, and named Baker and named that, and he popped back with something to the extent of he'll disagree on that one, and he very much looks forward to getting to play his old coach twice every year now.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Baker's a fun quarterback to see when he's pissed off. I think that's the best version of Baker Mayfield.
Yes. Give him a chip.
Yeah, as you well know.
Shoulder and just watch out. So, maybe way too early. The Bucks are going to be a playoff contending team and make a deep run next year.
This is a great question. Let's talk about this that Mario's posed to us.
Yep.
Let's
Real quick, I'm going to hit up Smokies and then we'll hit Mario's
okay.
here. So Smokey's saying, "What's up, guys? Rams versus Patriots for the Super Bowl, or who do you guys think?" You're of the opinion that it's Seattle and
New
and
England,
the Patriots.
New England, Seattle, yeah.
I want to see Denver and LA just from the standpoint that it's a unique Super Bowl pairing. Haven't seen that before. Honestly, though, I think that we'll probably see the Patriots moving on, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Seattle on that one. But the Rams, you know what? I won't put it past Sean McVay to find a way to get the Rams over the hump in that one. So, Mario chiming in asking who's biting the Raiders coaching bullet. You found a very interesting stat on the Raiders coaching positions since 2002.
I did actually. I'm not going to take credit for it, but
you found the article that had it.
I found the article. Yeah, I found the article. The Raiders have had more coaches than any other team since 2002. They've had 12 head coaches. That doesn't count interims.
Right. They've hired
great article
12 coaches. Yeah.
On ESPN.com right now. That literally came out today by Keith Jenkins. And yeah. Now, here's why I think posing the question this way, Mario, isn't fair.
Oh, I think it's very fair.
I don't think it's biting a bullet. They get the number 1 overall pick next year, right? Probably going to be Fernando Mendoza, we assume, right?
I think that's part of the reason you saw
Tom Brady
and Mark Davis and their GM all there last night.
So Fernando Mendoza is probably there, right? You've got a young Ashton Genty, right? They're going to have to figure out those pieces, but to have a quarterback on a rookie contract, which we know bodes well, right? Look at the 4 teams that are still playing for a Super Bowl right now. You've got 2 of them with starting quarterbacks on rookie contracts, a third with a journeyman starting quarterback that is not breaking the bank, and then a 4th with a guy who's restructured so much that I don't even know what percentage he is taking up. But I would be shocked if it's taking up more than that magic number, Derek, which is what, 15, 16%?
Yeah, it got thrown out the window because it used to be about 12. But I mean, I don't know. Sam Darnold did sign a 3-year, $100 million contract on that one.
Yeah, but that's still well below market value for like what some of these other quarterbacks are making 40, 45 mil a year. He's making 30, which is below market value, right? For being one of the 4 quarterbacks still standing. How many quarterbacks that are making 40 million aren't playing right now?
Right. But yeah, I don't know that there's right, because Matthew Stafford's on a 2-year, 84 million. Right?
So he's at 42 million, right?
Right. But
yeah. So he's the one outlier. Anyways, I still think that you'll have a young quarterback that hopefully you can develop, a young running back who I think is still going to be a star in this league, and you've got him for probably 4 or 5 years. You figure out a few other pieces. You've got a good tight end, a young, good pass-catching tight end, which we all know is a young quarterback's best friend, right? A good pass-catching tight end. I think the Raiders are turning a corner here. I think the Pete Carroll experiment was just that. It was an experiment. I think it was to bide time. I think the Raiders just needed some stability. You knew that Pete Carroll wasn't going to be there for forever. Honestly, I'm not shocked that he was only there for the year. I think the Chip Kelly experiment didn't work, right? He wasn't what they were looking for in terms of an OC. Didn't fit the personnel there. So I think there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Raiders coach. And then I think you also have to consider that there are 32 of these jobs, and the men that take them have egos the size of Montana, right? And they think they are the ones that are going to get the job done no matter what. So biting the Raiders coaching bullet, I think isn't a fair way to ask that question.
I mean, I
don't
don't
know
know.
who takes the job.
That's
all that to say. I don't know who they go after because it's still Mark Davis, and I don't know if
right,
Mark
and
Davis is
that's the
smart.
problem in itself, right?
Yeah.
The Raiders have certainly gone out to try and make some moves and some splash at some of their coaching hires in the past, but like this is a job that you're more that just based on the track record, they've hired 12 guys for the job in the last 24 years. Right? Like, and they're going to hire 13. They're going to hire 13 inside the 24 years. So since 2002 to 2026, they've hired 12 guys. They're looking for their 13th guy they've hired now. Doesn't include all the interims for the guys that got fired partway through the season that took over. But this is an organization that the job has a shelf life of on average of 2 years. And it's 2 years if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Right. Outliers would be outliers in that job would be if you've made it 3 years or 4 years.
Right. I think it needs to be a strong offensive mind though, because I do think they have really good offensive pieces. And if it's not going to be a strong offensive mind, it better be Vance freaking Joseph because that defense will be lights out.
But they've got holes all over the defense. You don't have a wide receiver 1 on the team, right? Like there's issues all around there like that. I agree with how
you do have a wide receiver 1. He just plays tight end.
Fair enough, but right, like that's the that really is.
You've got a wide receiver 1, and yes, they need to get more weapons because you can't say like, oh, that's exactly what the Chiefs did with Travis Kelce. And it's like, yeah, well, Travis Kelce still had Tyreek Hill and to a later extent other dudes that take some of that pressure away from the middle of the field, which is where they can make their hay.
Interestingly enough, let's play a little game here, right? So since the 2002 when that article looked at, can you name the 3 coaches that have lasted more than 2 seasons as the Raiders head coach?
Oh,
in that time span
since 2002, is Chucky in there?
Yes.
Okay.
There's 4 of them.
Okay, so give me Gruden.
Okay.
Trying to think if I can think of Raiders head coaches. I don't even know that I could think of any other ones.
Okay. So Gruden is 1, right? Lasting 3 and change.
3 and some change.
Complete the 4th year. The coach right before him was Jack Del Rio, who lasted.
Oh my God, I forgot he coached there.
3 seasons exactly. You had Dennis Allen, who made it 2 years and change. And you had Tom Cable, who made it 3 years. Other than that, everybody is 2 years or less. And there's a lot of guys that make it 1 and change.
McDaniels is on that list.
Yep.
Change.
Yep, because he made a 1 and change.
Josh McDaniels is the name.
Antonio Pierce only made it right. Like we're not counting the interim deal, so he was hired for the coach, full time, made it a year.
That's right.
Pete Carroll made it a year.
Yeah, he was just 1 year.
Tony Sperano made it a year. Hugh Jackson made it a year. Art Shell made it a year.
Okay, so Hugh Jackson is on that list. Okay, so the other team on this article, the other team that has had the most head coaches since 2002, it comes as no surprise, is the Cleveland Browns, right? They've had fewer head coaches than starting quarterbacks since 2002, but not by much. They've had 9, right? And Hugh Jackson is on both of those lists.
Right?
Common
So,
denominator.
right. But yeah, I would very much agree with the phrasing of that. Who's biting the bullet? Because, unless you drastically change things around, and you're talking about having to drastically change things around for a locker room that has a losing culture, for and granted, I say that as an outsider looking in, but it's hard to have a winning culture when you've had that kind of turnover throughout the building, when you haven't had a winning season. Like, you're going to have to go in and drastically change the culture. You're going to have to do it with, not necessarily the highest profile players in there. And you're going to have likely a rookie quarterback that you're going to have to develop and bring along to the next level. And, oh, by the way, you're doing it in a division that has...
I was waiting for you to get to that point.
Yeah, and by the way, you're doing it in a division that has Andy Reid, who is the winningest coach and most tenured coach in current NFL coach out there right now. You're doing it against, and he's won several Super Bowls. Sean Payton, ton of experience there, has won a Super Bowl. And Harbaugh, who's been to a Super Bowl and has put up a couple of winning seasons in a row now. And you're dealing with teams that have been, for the most part, in the division that's going to be very difficult to try and win. But
again, the men that take one of these 32 jobs have egos the size of Montana.
You're probably right on that one. Just anyway. Any other thoughts on this one, or should we head on over to play Guess the Player?
Let's play.
All right. So, premise on this one: you get 5 guesses, and the 5 guesses will we'll go through it. You can take a guess. If you don't know, if you guess it right, I'll tell you right. If you don't, I'll tell you that it's not him, and we'll move on there. But you have up to 5 clues to guess the player. These are all based off of half-point PPR type of scoring when it comes to that. And okay. I'll even tell you that it's a running back as well.
Okay.
All right. So this running back played all 17 games for the season, but he averaged under 15 fantasy points per game. That would be your first clue.
RJ Harvey.
This is not RJ Harvey. Second clue. He handled over 230 rushing attempts, but averaged under 4.5 yards a carry.
Zach Charbonnet.
Not a bad guess, but it is incorrect. So this running back, even though he didn't have a super high running or yards per carry, with those over 230 rushing attempts, still managed to get over 1,000 rushing yards and did it with a lot of volume. Mario has a guess here for you, but I'm not gonna count it against you. He's saying it's Brian Robinson. It is not Brian Robinson, but good guess, Mario.
Read that last one again for me.
So he still managed to go over 1,000 rushing yards and did it on the volume.
James Cook.
I like the guess. Not correct. Clue number 4. He was involved in the passing game a little bit, but had under 39 receptions and under 300 receiving yards for the season.
Ashton Genty.
Another good guess. Not correct, though.
Dang.
So the last clue, His fantasy value came from usage, not necessarily the explosiveness. He finished inside the top 20 running backs, but rarely had week winning performances.
This is horrible podcast. It's dead air right now while I'm thinking through where I'm going here.
Mario has another guess on there. He says it's Derrick Henry, the king. Mario, great guess, but that is also incorrect. Derrick Henry was averaging over 5 yards a carry.
How about Rico Dowdle?
Incorrect. So those
Can I get
are
a bonus guess?
Yeah, you can take another guess here.
I was in between these two. My other one is Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams is actually very close on this one, but and I say it's very close because of how he finished in total fantasy points compared to the guy that it was, right? Javonte finished at running back 11 on the season. This player finished at running back 10 on the season. And of course, the player I'm talking about is Travis Etienne.
Really?
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
Travis Etienne was on a roster of mine.
Yep. He was a very, very solid running back too for you, right? Set it and forget it, running back too.
Well, you say that, except for this was an 8-man league, a league I won, by the way. I'd like to clarify. It's a league that I'm in with my high school buddies, a league that I won. Let me find it because I think it's interesting what this roster was, because I had Jonathan Taylor, I had Devon Achane. It's a 2 running back and a flex. And I had to choose every week between Travis Etienne and RJ Harvey. That decision got tough towards the end of the year after J.K. Dobbins went down. That decision got really tough each week.
Right.
I ended the year with Travis Etienne in my lineup, but yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, very interesting. And we'll have some more of these coming through over the next few episodes here as well. Because quite frankly, they're kind of fun to do. But
that is fun.
Yeah. So I think it's going to bring us down here to the end of it. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
No. One of these days, the 3 of us will get back to doing these podcasts on a semi-consistent basis. Sometimes life gets in the way. And but eventually, hopefully, the 3 of us will get back to doing these. Enjoy championship weekend. It's going to be not so great weather where I'm located. So I'll be probably stuck in watching these games. Oh, shoot. Oh, darn.
Oh, darn.
So, yeah, hope everyone enjoys championship weekend, and then we can get ready for the big one.
Absolutely. So be lots of fun, right? We'll be back next Tuesday, talk about the reactions here for this coming week, look at some more coaching carousels, some player, guess the player type of thing. But absolutely appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, getting to converse with folks in the chat. That's going to do it for us tonight. He's Alex. I'm Derek. And we'll see Kevin back here next week. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.